Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. You know, it's not a surprise that if you're talking about one of the most epic battles of all time in all of fantasy, the Siege of Minas Tirith is definitely on the top of the list. I mean, it's got everything you want. It's written by the legendary Tolkien. It's also got the cavalry coming in to save the day and the architectural structure of Minas Tirith itself. I mean, it's just got the definite walls upon walls going up a mountain. It definitely adds and begs for a definite tactical strategy game. And the people at SPI in 1977, even back then, knew of the importance of this battle. So they wanted to get the best of both worlds. They wanted to make sure that they can make specific rules for this to work and still feel a little bit special, more than just your average siege, but also to make it because of the widespread the widespread popularity of Tolkien's work, that they were definitely going to try to get new blood into wargaming. Now, that's really a hard call in a lot of ways. We all know that. It doesn't mean they weren't trying. They were really trying to keep this lean and as simple as possible. Did they succeed? Well, we're going to go over that today, because today I'm going to be talking to you about why you should be playing Gondor, the Siege of Minas Tirith, based on the J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings by SPI. Alright, so here we have the board for Gondor all set up, and I'm already cringing because I'm looking at my defense forces for Minas Tirith, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do that again. And I'll go over why in a little bit. But basically what it was is I was just playing the play, as I think everybody should do, especially with games like SPI. You know, just play them to play, get an idea of what's going on, because there's special rules and how things work. And then you just get into the gist of it, and by the third time you play, because this isn't long. It's not long. It's enjoyable. And it was actually quite a long game. And because you're not trying to make a perfect, because later on you can get real tight, right? Because you know how things are going to work. Not the first time. So you're already starting with probably about 20,000 mistakes on each side. And that makes it kind of exciting and a little chaotic, so that's all right. But the thing is, here's the rules. There's two sets of rules, as you see on the left-hand side. There's the standard rules for Gondor and its sister game, Sauron, which is, it's another game altogether, another mini-game. And then they have the Gondor exclusive rules. So the basic standard rules, it's your basic wargameese, right? It's got movement, zones of control, how to do combat. The combat's not exactly the same as, like, say, maybe Ragnarok, which is pretty simple, but it's maybe one step more complicated, just because they add an armor rating and there's an attack rating and an armor rating, but it works differently than just numbers. They actually use letters in it to switch things up, and I'll have to go into why they might do that later on. But basically, by reading the standard rules, it's a lot of the wargaming-ese, like I said, that you already know and love. It's very familiar. It's when you get to the exclusive rules that you actually play in this game that set it apart. And that's the one you really got to concentrate on and learn. And I noticed a trend in the last few videos that I really like, and that is people liking and commenting, and you'll notice that the video views have gone up astronomically. They've almost doubled. As a matter of fact, our subscription rate is now 1,500 subscribers. Thank you to all of you. But please like and comment down below. This is getting to more people that way. Alright, so we have turn 2 set up here all ready to go, and as we can see, Sauron's forces pretty much just made the preliminary move forward. They are going to spread out more, as you will see as turns go by. Not a surprise considering how the defense is set up. So let's go over the victory conditions here. That really changes everything, because yes, there is some points to go through Minas Tirith and get inside, but there's more to it. The first thing is that the Sauron player must control that southern road going from Minas Tirith to the bottom of the map to Gondor. Okay, they got to have at least one unit on there at all times. Okay, they have to control that road. So that's why in some photos that I've seen some people actually try to defend Minas Tirith, having all its forces outside of the walls and just saying we're going to fight here, because the thing is, there are two turns where reinforcements come in. Turn 5-ish, because you got to roll on a 5 or 6 they make it, and then on turn 10. Okay, so you really never know when they're going to arrive, but you know that they are. So maybe just putting up a good fight is good enough. Now, the second thing is that the Sauron player has to do is make sure they demoralize the defense forces of Minas Tirith. Okay, now, how does that happen? Well, they have to score 74 points of demoralization. And you get that by a number of ways. One, by getting your forces, Sauron getting his forces inside of Minas Tirith, and it's 5 points each level that they can control. And how do you control a level? Not only do you get into level, you have to wipe out everything else in that level and control the gates. Then you've penetrated it. Okay, so as you can see here, they're not likely to get the first level, any points for that. But they're going to make an end run. You're going to see they're going to easily get like 15 points because there's nobody else around. I definitely left everything else open and put all my eggs in one basket here. But you also notice that as you're playing, you can also get demoralization points by losing forces. And losing a force is more than 5 points. So those 5 points are kind of like bonus points. You almost could let them go because in this game you really got to concentrate on survival. It's better to survive and let them kind of come in and wait for reinforcements to get there. And and that also it's 74 points for the defense, and they'll be demoralized. Or, like, I believe it's 97 points for Sauron's forces. Sauron, that's the third stipulation, cannot be demoralized himself. Okay, so, and that's a little bit easier because they got 97 points. If they actually get inside, if they demoralize the enemy, they actually lose 20 demoralization points, and it really makes it even tougher for them to lose. But it really comes down to that road. I believe that road and controlling it all is the main thing. So if basically the defense can just survive for enough turns for the the reinforcements to show up, that's going to change everything. So what I did here is I became a sitting duck in a lot of ways, and let's go over how. All right, and before I actually go into how I got decimated on the inside, we have to talk about how the orcs got in there in the first place, actually. And there's a number of ways. Basically, siege towers and ladders, and of course, using the battle hammer Grond, basically is the only way to penetrate the gate, because the outer wall is impenetrable. You can only climb over. Now, all the other walls in the game, once you get through that, it's easy. They'll break. They'll breach. That's not a problem. But the only way to get past the first level is actually by climbing, and that's the only way. So when the siege towers start their turn at the edge of a wall, basically any orc, if it's as long as it's undisturbed, any orc can kind of go through there for one extra movement point, and that's it, which is really powerful because if an orc starts near the wall with it, they can go up there and technically get to the other wall and actually place up their ladder and get over the next turn already. Now, how ladders work is pretty much the same way, only it costs 3 movement points for that unit to use the ladder, and once they get there, the ladder's no longer there, right? I mean, it goes back to the pool, because there's only so many ladders to use. If once a ladder is placed up, they can use it next turn, but if they suffer damage in any way, the ladder is destroyed, and they can't use that ladder anymore. Another thing is the boiling oil. Basically, any unit can grab a cauldron of boiling oil. It slows them down for 1 movement point, but basically, if they see, then they say that this is only usable when the Gondor, the Sauron's units are climbing up a ladder. It's the only time you can attack during the movement phase, and then they can pour the oil over the unit. Now, why do you have to wait till the movement phase? Because there's 3 cauldrons of oil and 3 dummy counters of cauldrons that are empty. So basically, you have to play a little bit of cat and mouse there, adds a little bit to it. So you always have to wonder, are these the 3 cauldrons going to be, are these the right ones? And then the Sauron player tries to go over. As far as catapults go, you can't fire and move at the same time, so you'll never see a Sauron player going up right to the catapults of range 2 or less, because anything at 2 or less is an automatic hit, so you're not going to move up to them within 2 and let them get an automatic hit on you, because they're not moving and you are. They're going to fire first, so you're going to stay around 3 or 4 hexes away, where it's a 50% chance to hit and a 50% chance to scatter. Okay, and of course Sauron's catapults outnumber the defenses, so generally it's a numbers game and kind of it's kind of the way to mix things up. Afterwards, what happens is the Sauron player, if they have any catapults left, or don't even want to bother doing that, they can send severed heads over, and as long as they don't hit a cauldron of oil or something like that, or fire, they actually will demoralize the enemy for 1 point. Those points do add up though, and you get like 3 or 4 catapults. So that could be 4 points a turn, but it's going to be tempting to blow up their catapults first before their catapults can kill your siege towers, right? So that's a very interesting concept. And the fact that any of these catapults can also technically fire just like with the strength of an archer unit, if they want to, at any unit within 4. So that's how that goes there. Now, as far as the main gate, see, the thing is, the main gate is the only way to get any units in other than climbing the wall. You cannot use a catapult to penetrate the outer wall. It is impenetrable. All the other walls will go down easy enough, and you can breach those, but these walls just won't. All right. So the only way to actually breach it is going through the main gate with Sauron's battle hammer, Grond, or battle ram Grond, which costs him magic points to use. But it's easy enough, and bam, it'll go through, and maybe within a turn or two, because you got to roll, but maybe a turn or two on average, it will breach, and then your force can come through. All right, so things look a little bleak here. Like this is like turn 4, but it's not so bad yet. It will be, but basically, even though the orcs are definitely inside the walls on both sides, they haven't scored any points for that yet, because you remember you got to kill everything that's in that level, and you have to control the gates. They might control the gates right now, but they have nothing else. So that's okay. In the next turns to come, though, they will gain like 10 to 15 points down the road, very easily, I might add. But what's even easier, as I said before, it's eliminating units that'll get you those points even quicker, because they're all worth more than 5 points. And as we can see, this is the point where I really screwed up as far as my strategy here, because I forgot I was playing an SPI game. Okay, sometimes when it comes to these mini games, I keep on forgetting, like I'm setting up like as if I'm playing a task force game or a meta game. Basically it's, no zones of control. When you roll to hit, did you kill it or didn't you? And that's it, right? Here, it's definitely retreating. I'll show you the combat system in a little bit, but basically you roll to hit, and if you hit, then you roll on the casualty table. And on the casualty table, you're at least retreating 1. You're at least doing that. You're always doing it, actually, but you're at least doing that. So we look on the upper right as an example here. You got Sauron's forces, E1Z and Gondor D3X. I'll show you what those letters mean in a little bit. But let's just say the Sauron player hits the Gondor player, and he's going to have to retreat 1. Now, there is an archer, as you could see there, but it's inside the tower with the wall, so he's not exerting a zone of control there. However, there is that ladder. Units on ladders actually do exert a zone of control. So the thing is, there's nowhere for that Gondor force to move, and therefore that Gondor force, if they were to take a hit at all, is gone. And that's a number of points. Now, how are the points distributed? Well, basically, A is the strongest, and E is the weakest, and D is like the second from the last, so it's like 2 points. So E is 1, D is 2, C is 3, and on all the way up to A. So that's that. And then the number is worth exactly how much that number is worth. So we're already at 5 points now. And then it's W to Z. That is the armor rating. And X is like in the middle. So that's worth 3 points. So eliminating that unit was 8 points right there for against the Westernese player. All right, so here we have the casualty probability table, otherwise known as a to hit chart. And the attacker's strength goes from A to E, and it's a capital letter if it's melee, and it's a lowercase letter if it's for a missile attack that's on the counter. And some units actually have both, and if that unit gets wiped out, it does count. Both those letters do count for demoralization values, so you have to figure them both out and count it towards. Now, the funny thing is here, and I understand why they did, they're using 2d6 dice. So basically, if you have an attack strength of B and a defense armor rating of 2, you got to roll 4 to 8, okay, on 2 dice. And I understand they're doing that and you look at all those values here, it's not like 7 or less. None of them are all that. Some of them are like a B with a strength against an armor rating of 3 is 2 to 7. You could just say 7 or less, and that would do the job. However, they're doing weird percentages here, and so some of them are like 4 to 8, 4 to 9, and you always have to look at the chart, and I wish it would be a more intuitive way to do it rather than that. Quite honestly, you could probably, and the problem is because polyhedral dice weren't a thing like they are now. I mean, they were there because of Dungeons & Dragons, but they were not produced like as such en masse as they are. D6s were all around, right? So this actually goes against the wargaming efficiency I mean, I love D6 and I love what they do with it. And I usually give it credit for being more less gimmicky and just straightforward and to the point. This actually goes against the grain on that. It would actually be better to just roll percentile dice, or even to make it even simpler, roll 1d10 and just round it to the nearest, maybe. But if you really wanted to do granularity, you could at least roll percentile dice and get that result. So after that, after you figure that out, then you go to the casualty results table, and like I said, you're at least retreating 1, so it depends on your morale level, and that is rated anywhere from W to Z. As you can see on Z, it's just usually eliminated. Maybe you'll run away twice and just run away at least 1, and maybe if you have a W, you only lose a step. Okay, and you're always retreating 1. Again, you're always retreating 1. I'll say it again because I lost so many units. You're always retreating 1. All right, and another thing that happened that didn't make it any easier from when it comes to retreating was on turn 2 to 6, it's nighttime, and Sauron's forces don't even have to roll to hit. They just roll in the casualty report table, and basically, as I said, you're at least retreating 1, and of course, I was a sitting duck. Inside the city walls, you are very cramped, and I was just losing a lot of forces. I lost a lot of forces right off the bat before I got smart and spread them out. And this might be another reason why I've seen people go outside the walls to try to defend Minas Tirith, because it would just be a lot easier. Yeah, you might take a step reduction, but your heroes can rally and turn them up, and that goes also for the Nazgul and stuff. He can rally his forces as well, but that might be a lot better to deal with that than actually have to deal with eliminating a unit all at once because you're too crowded. And you might also notice that I didn't use, for the game turn marker, I don't use my normal Steve Jackson D12 big resin die that I usually do, because they already had a game turn and a turn track to say when things happen in the game, so I was using it. But what I was using were these dice to track the demoralization value, and these are from Paladin Role Playing. Now, they sent me you might have remembered that from last video. They sent me a coin for the Fantasy Trip players because they had a coin in the Fantasy Trip. And they also have these dice. But why am I showing you these dice? Why am I showing the Wargamers these dice? Because they don't use role-playing. Well, the thing is, these dice are very functional. And if you still want dice, they have probably dice for you. And what do I mean by functionality? Basically, there's a lot of pretty dice out there, but they also, get in the way. Their color schemes get too verbose, and they're just in the way, and you can't read them as clearly. These are just nice color contrasted, and if not color contrasted, like the blue ones down below, they are still very clear to read. The marbleization is very subtle, and it doesn't get in the way at all. So check out the link below for Paladin role-playing and see if you get you some dice. All right, so here we have turn 6. At turn 5, the reinforcements came on time, and I'm just showing you turn 6 here because they're making a mad break to get at Sauron's forces as quickly as possible, because it really is projecting that that Sauron's forces are getting closer and closer to demoralizing the forces of Minas Tirith. Okay, so they've got to get on over there. Now, you might notice that the leaders, this game usually doesn't have a lot of stacking. There's not too many rules. The only exceptions are maybe the ladders, leaders on top of units. That's a different thing. But also there is something called formations, and that's what all 3 of those counters that are near the road there on the upper right there, those leaders have formations of 2 other units underneath them. If you do that with cavalry, basically it's called a wedge. If you do it with 2 units that are ground units, or infantry, I should say, they're reforming a shield wall. The effects are the same. You get an attack rating of A, and you get a defense of 4. Okay, and it's actually very tough to get through it. The only difference is, and this is something that I kind of found out too, as powerful as it is, you're not getting as many of attacks. And if you have to take chances, at this point I kind of had to try to eliminate as many forces as possible. Yeah, we all know the wargaming tactic of basically overwhelming forces, but this was one of those cases where I think I needed to, instead of guaranteeing a slow, deliberate count, I needed to make something happen. So I probably could have spread them out, and that's another thing. By spreading them out, I could have basically surrounded a lot more units, forced them to not have any squares to retreat. While when I have like 9 units there, or I should say 6 units, the leaders don't really count a zone of control, but having that many more units to surround other units so they cannot retreat and get eliminated. So that was a big deal there. All right, so we fast forward to the end of the game here, and it was tight, actually, as far as much as so much progress was made by Sauron's forces in the first few turns. They were getting more and more points. As the units were less and less, there were less points to get, so they had to rely on getting into the walls, which they definitely did. As I said before, it wasn't too hard. Now, the thing is, there is a force that actually starts at the beginning, tippy top of the whole map, and it kind of wiggles its way down 4 squares a turn, and it actually will, challenge the orcs at one of the other levels. And of course, you do get those demoralization points back if if you go back to a level that's controlled by orcs. Well, you gain those points back if they no longer control that level because you're in it. All right, and the reinforcements just waylaying back and forth because they were so strong in that formation. Nothing could escape it. Basically, it was their turn basically. But however, it was turn 9 and turn 10. Aragorn would have shown up, and Gandalf has a special spell that if it's cast, it shows the banner of Aragorn, and of course they would have gotten some more knockdown on the demoralization points, so that would have bought them maybe an extra turn, and those forces would have came in and just wiped out everybody. And because the Sauron's forces were actually at 90 points, and I believe, like I said before, it's 97 points, so they were only like 1 or 2 units away from a victory. So that was actually quite exciting. So not right yet, but I am giving a spoiler alert in about 2 minutes here to talk about my strategies if I were to play the game again. But for those of you who stick around just for a little bit longer, let me give you my review of if the game's worth playing again. And I think I just gave it away. It absolutely is. There is a problem though. To get the game on eBay or anything, it usually comes with the Games of Middle-earth trilogy, The War of the Ring. Okay, and that puppy is $300 on eBay. Good luck. It's not going anywhere soon. It's Tolkien. It's one of the first games. It's rare. Ugh. I got lucky and I got Gondor and Sauron, which was the only thing I was interested in. Lucky that was on eBay and my patience paid off. I got it for $100. Okay, so is it a game that's worth $50 each? Well, I know what I'm getting into. I mean, basically what I think it was worth, like 25 to 30, yeah. Would I pay for 50? Well, it's Lord of the Rings. I got to pay it. So it's one of those things. But as far as a game, though, I liked it. Like I said, it was pretty much light enough. You can actually play it on Vassal or Cyberbox or something like that. They actually, on Cyberbox, I seen a really nice version of it, really actually quite pretty. But the only thing that I would suggest, and I hope somebody gets there before I do maybe, if I were to play this again, I would change those dice so it's percentile dice to roll to hit, because it'd be just so much easier to know, okay, because when you roll, sometimes you roll first and ask questions later, right? It's like, you just rolled 99, you missed, but when you roll a 2, you don't know that you missed or not, because sometimes it's 4 to 7, sometimes it's 2 to 9, so you just can't say, oh, okay, I know I missed. That slows up things, and you're always looking at the chart. So that's the only thing I would say. But I would definitely play this again, and I can't wait to play Sauron, because I believe, and of course I was wrong about this game or what it was all about, I think that one's more open-ended and just more of a battle. We'll see. All right, so here's your official spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't want to talk about extra strategies in the game and want to figure this out for themselves. I'll go ahead and see you next video, okay? Have a good one. And for everybody else, let's talk strategy, okay? Or tactics, whatever the case may be. So here's the map again, and I'm in my terrible configuration. And obviously you're going to be thinking I'm going to spread out a little bit more on the defense, and you'd be right, but even more so, actually, I would actually put 2 or 3 units on each level of the map. So that way, remember, the orc player does not get, Sauron's forces does not get points for demoralization unless they own the entire level. You're not there, and they control the gates. Now, the thing is, this can get a little cheesy, though, too, and a little gamey against the spirit of the game, because the gates work like this. They swing, each level. It's not 2 gates on each side making it easy. You go up here, and you got to traverse all the way over to get to the next gate. So what's that mean? Basically, you can keep all your guys at the very tippy top and say, come and get me if you want this level. They make it through the gate all the way over here. They got to get to you, they have to go through the entire thing. Very cheesy. You can only use 1 unit to do it officially. But, it goes against the spirit of the game. But then the orcs could just kind of climb the ladder and just go over to the next level and the next level. But you could, for only the cost of 5 forces, just kind of have them all contained. But the thing is, it is all about survival, so it's not against the spirit of the game to necessarily have your forces inside Minas Tirith, just that really far end, cheesy, kind of gamey kind of way. But it is all about survival. You're trying to survive for the reinforcements to make it, because when the reinforcements make it, they are going to have an easier time with Sauron's forces. And of course, at that point, as I said at the beginning of the video, it all comes down to that road. Because if you're letting the orc forces just kind of have their way in, well, they just can't send everybody, because when the reinforcements do come, and they eventually will, then they got to defend that road, and there's going to be a big pincer movement, and it's going to be rough sailing for Sauron's forces. Now, a lot of people say that Sauron basically has does not have the upper edge at all, and has a hard time to ever win. But then again, that's why the books kind of go, right? So I think there's another game, I can't think of it right now, that goes along those lines. Oh, yeah, Starship Troopers. It seems like the bugs never win, right? Because the Marines are always going to pretty much come on top. So that's okay, though. Just true to the game. And the thing is, it's one of those games also that it's like, okay, look, if Sauron really does have a disadvantage in the game, how far does he get? Can you give more points maybe for going across for each level, or maybe give partial points if you at least get there? Or it could be just like you play, I play, okay? You both play the side of Sauron, you both play the defense, the defense, and then you see who actually gets more demoralization points by the end. I mean, yeah, Sauron loses, but how bad does he lose as each player? That's basically the best way to play. Now, as far as Sauron's forces, what would I do? It's definitely a bull rush. There's no doubt. Spread out, get out there, kill as many as you can, and just as soon as the reinforcements arrive, probably retreat, because you don't want to have a small supply of forces on the outside to guard that road. They're going to get eaten up, especially by turn 10-ish, where the other forces come in and big pincer movement, and it's over. As you know, you got to be able to retreat. So I'm already excited to check out Sauron, since I already know half the rules, right? Because of those 2 rule booklets. So I'm already halfway there, so I might as well play it next week since it's still fresh in my mind. Remember, everybody, Paladin role-playing, the link down below for those dice, and I'll see you next video.